Hi, everyone. You're listening to episode 59 of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. Thanks so much for inviting us to your table. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the Goofy Noob, and today I am joined by the Collector.
Hey, this is David.
The Intellectual Introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And the Deluxeifier.
Hello, it's Pete.
You've been served. Oh, wait, that's a different kind of summons. Today we're hanging out in the world of fantasy, summoning monsters and dragons, and whatever else we need to become the most powerful in the land. First, we'll hunt, taming, selling, and summoning powerful beasts in our quest to reign victorious over the Vale of Eternity. Then we'll put our potions in motion as we vie for control of ancient monuments and places of power in Res Arcana. And finally, because we just can't help ourselves, we'll put our mage in a cage and let the creatures rage as we pit these games against each other in our ultimate showdown, the Battle of the Funnest. But before we get started to grow our tableau, David, what's our topic of discussion today?
Yeah, so this one's going to come from some of the games that I played on break. So for those who don't know, I went on a little vacation or a mission trip with my youth group at our church, and we actually played a lot of this game called Werewolf. And so it brings up the question that I want to present to you guys. What do you think about when it comes to lying in board games? Do you think it's something that is acceptable, not acceptable, something that, if it's part of the game, it's okay? But what is your stance, or have you ever thought about lying as a part of playing a game?
My general answer was going to be no, but then I thought back to when we played Blood on the Clock Tower, and I just had a great time just lying to the young kids all around that circle, and then just smiling as I killed them off one by one. So that was actually kind of fun. I think if it's built into the game, maybe it's okay, right? I still don't think of that as, man, I'd love to play a game where you have to deceive people. I don't tend to like those kind of games. What's that game, the communist game? Hollywood 1947 or something like that.
Yeah, there's Hollywood 1947. There's a whole bunch of games, Saboteur. We play a lot of those at work, and we're good at lying at each other. So I'm all for it. If it's part of the game, that's part of the game. And, how you can do that and get away with it is sometimes really epic. And those are the fun moments. Now, as far as lying about, playing a card wrong, no, you don't want to do that. You got to play within the rules of the game. But if the game promotes it, then by all means, lie away.
Yeah, I mean, I think as part of the game, I enjoy deception games. So that for me is fun because I like actually trying to read other people. I think that's part of the fun of those deception games. I actually like that game that we played. What was it, 1941? Or
Hollywood 1947 or something like
that.
Yeah,
one of those years, 1900 something. Yeah. So that I actually like that game. I think that was just enjoyable. And then we played kind of a buffing game last week too as well. And you just trying to see how people are playing their cards and things. Yeah, I think that's all good fun. And it's just I call it more like deception, I guess, than like outright lying. Yeah, because I agree. Because I've had my brother-in-law we've played Uno with before, and he will lay two cards down to try and hide the one like that. I don't like that kind of game. So yeah. What do you think, David?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with your assessment on it. I think that if it comes to lying as in cheating, if you're just trying to play a normal game and somebody's doing what you said with Uno, I knew somebody else that did that. They're like, well, if you didn't catch me, then that's on you, right?
What?
But I'm like, well, I'm not looking to try to catch you. But I think if it does come to social deduction games, a lot of times, you're trying to figure out, who is the culprit or who is the werewolf in this case, or who are the humans. And so, if everybody's supposed to pretend that they're human, I think it's more of I don't necessarily lying, but more pretending or play acting.
Yeah.
You have to try to get along with everybody else. There's some interesting games that are coming out. I heard of one that you play as a robot, but I think everybody kind of does some weird stuff in this game where you all kind of sound like robots, but you're trying to figure out which one of you is not a human. But it doesn't necessarily involve straight up lying like in other games. It's more of deception because you don't actually know if you're the robot. I forgot how it's done, so maybe don't quote me on that. But it's not hey, I'm a robot for sure, and so therefore I'm lying. So it's just an interesting concept. Here we are teaching youth group kids how to play werewolf, but it is what it is.
Preparing them for life.
Yeah, they had a good time with
exactly.
it. Exactly.
Yeah. How do you deal with lying?
Yeah, it's the game of the trip. Everybody kept wanting to play. So
well, I do remember one time. This was earlier on when I first started playing. we were playing. I was trying to teach my sons and wife how to play. What's the Robin Hood game? Sheriff of Nottingham. And I was trying to get Ben to lie. And he just didn't grasp it. So I think I won in life in teaching him not to lie. So
that's a dad one.
Yeah, so that's a win for me. But again, I love those kinds of games. I think they're fun. You like so many other games, you got to have the right people for the type of game you're playing.
Yeah, of course.
So keep that in mind if you are going to dive into one of these games.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks, David. So those are our opinions on games and lying, but we'd enjoy knowing what all of you guys have to say out there. Let us know by sending us an email at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com. Follow us on social media or checking out our website at fifthmeeple.com. In addition to subscribing to our show, one of the best ways you can help us grow is to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen. And if you do, we just might read one of your comments on a future episode. All right, guys, I've got my hunting gear on, so let's jump into our discussion of Vale of Eternity.
Vale of Eternity is a 2 to 4 player open drafting and set collection race game that has you hunting monsters, spirits, and other mythical creatures to tame them as your minions. The main deck consists of 70 cards, each with a mythical creature from one of 5 different families. At the start of each round, a number of cards equal to twice the player count are revealed and placed around the central playing board at a location corresponding to their family type. In this hunting phase, players then take turns claiming cards by placing a marker on them in a snake draft, proceeding from the first player to the last, then from the last player to the first. During the action phase, in turn order, players take as many actions as desired as long as they can meet the requirements. You can sell a card, discarding one of the cards you claimed in the hunting phase and receiving a number of magic stones based on the card's family. It's important to note that at no time during the game may you have more than 4 stones. Any extra are forfeit. Alternatively, you can tame a card, taking one of the cards you claimed in the hunting phase into your hand at no cost. You can also summon a card, paying the price indicated on the card and laying the card in your tableau. The total number of summoned cards that you can have is capped by the round number. These cards, once played, grant a power that is either immediate, ongoing, or takes place during the resolution phase. When paying for cards, you do not receive change. Any excess amount paid is again forfeit. And finally, you can remove a card from your own tableau, paying the cost indicated on the card to do so. In the resolution phase, players activate any active powers in their tableau in the order of their choice, then the round ends. The game end is triggered after 10 rounds or when one or more players exceeds 60 points, and the player with the most points at the end of that round wins the game and reigns for all of eternity. Vale of Eternity was designed by Eric Hong and was first published in 2023 by Mandu Games.
All right, Chris, thanks for that. All right, guys, so let's talk about some of the things in this game that really were enjoyable. I think I'd like to open up the conversation starting out with just the table presence, artwork, cards, how it's laid out, and if anybody has any comments there.
I mean, I really like this game that each card is unique. I mean, you're not going to find any doubles or anything like that. Each monster or whatever creature they are in this game is unique, and I think that takes a lot of work to do, but I think that always makes the game more entertaining when it comes to me. I always like that each card is a unique card and I'm not seeing doubles. I think that takes more effort, but I think the payoff is always better.
And then the design of those cards is done in such a way, at least in my mind, to where there are some games where, hey, you have to, and this is one of them, you need to know what other people are trying to build, what other people are trying to do. And there are some games, and we'll talk about some in future episodes and past ones, where I have no idea what you have in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I did not feel this way. Any of the times we're playing this game, I was able to keep track, probably because we're all looking at all the cards at the start of each round, so you know what's out there, keep track of what's going on. But I didn't feel like I was hindered so much by that piece of the game, partly because it's pretty clear on the card what it does.
It seemed like we did go through a lot of the cards and reading them off as they come out at the beginning of that round. I think the color scheme is actually really well done on this. It's kind of like pastels and light, and it's bright on the table. You know, some of the writing is a little bit hard to see on those. But to David's point, like having to see all the cards and them all being different, it can be a little bit arduous to try and find and understand what each and every single one of those cards is or does or how they power play up. So you definitely got to play multiple rounds of this, like as it's laid out. And I thought at one point, I was like, man, why is this like scoring board so small? And why is this like so tiny? But once you start to build out in front of you, you definitely understand like, oh, that needs to be that small for that reason. Yeah,
as far as the cards go, they're not too complicated, which I think is a good plus for this game. They're pretty simple when you get them into play. They trigger at a particular times, as Chris said in the intro, either when you play them or an ongoing effect. And I just enjoyed how simple the rule set was with it. And one of the things that I really enjoy about board games, one of the mechanics is drafting. And this is kind of fun because it does the snake draft. So who's ever first gets the first pick, and then it goes around and then goes back around. So I enjoy that in the game. I think it does real well. And just to add to it, I think the turns are very quick as far as the game goes. We could play a game in under an hour with not a lot of downtime in between.
All right, let's talk about just some of the things that you guys really enjoy when you're playing this game.
I mean, I think the decision space in this game, there's a couple different things that I really like about some of the decisions. One of them I'll talk about is the fact that you only have 4 coins that you can keep. And this actually affects a lot of the game because you can't just endlessly collect money. The currencies are 1, 3, and 6. And if you overpay for something, you don't get any change back. And I think the dynamic of how that is done makes this game feel tight when it could be maybe a looser game. But I like the dynamic of, hey, you can only keep 4 coins in your pouch, and that's all you can keep, and you have to know what those values are. And there's cards that chain, with that money. Some cards might say, hey, you could turn stuff into 3s. Other ones say, hey, you could turn it into a 6 or something like that. But just because you have a 6, sometimes you don't want to use that to go and spend it because maybe the card you're trying to play is only worth, a 2 or something, and that's the only coin you have, and that's a tough decision space to make.
And I think it's those two things together. Each one of them puts a little control on it, but those two things together where you can only have 4, but you don't get change, that's a pretty complex mini puzzle in there to actually max out what you can get. And it's not just you can't have 4 at the end of your turn. You can never have more than 4 at any point in the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, to your point, Chris, just that little puzzle in between, but also trying to balance what cards you have to make it make sense was actually pretty, to me, it seemed neat, like in the game. Not like, oh, that's neat, cool, but it felt like clean, like as you're playing it, because you can only have so much. That way you're not growing your resources beyond what you can buy. You got to strategically think, like, I only need this much incoming and going out and buying the cards. So to me, it was very, very cool component of the game.
And there's certain cards that would be overpowered if it didn't have that in there. So you get so many points for this kind of stone or something. But again, if you get one of those cards, it can be pretty powerful still, but then it will take you multiple turns to try to set that up, and you may be sacrificing other things. So all of those different mechanisms work really well together.
Mm-hmm.
There is one thing I'd like to say. The board, when you're actually laying out the board and the cards, I like how it's centralized and there's no up or down to the board. It's kind of circular. And just the way that flows, you can put it in the middle of the board, and nobody's really always upside down, in some games where, somebody's sitting upside down and have to read things. And not that there's a lot to read on that board. It's very clear. The icons are pretty bold and easy to identify. So that's one of the little things I really enjoyed about it. They could have just made a straight board and laid them out, but just by doing that unique layout of it, I do really like that.
Yeah, it's like a star, like a pentagon.
Yeah,
it's good.
There are multiple ways to score points in this game, like a lot of different ways you can go, and a lot of not just ways to score points, but I would say timing or the manner in which the game flows out. There was one game, one of the most recent ones that we played, David, where I think you scored 0 points until the last round. Right. and I saw a couple of the cards you were picking up. I knew what you were building towards. I knew it was coming. In that last round, what ended up being the last round of the game, you scored more than 60 points all on one turn. And it was putting all the combos together. Again, that puzzle of getting just the right number of stones that you wanted, of just the right value, and having the right cards in your hand. And boom, 60-some points in just one turn. Well, meanwhile, we're all building up slowly. I think you lost by like 1 point or something like that in that game. But that was interesting to me just to see, hey, it's not a matter of I got to be ahead or I got to be going at a certain pace. There are opportunities to do really, really big moves, but you've got to set yourself up for it.
Yeah, I think this game allows you to play your own game. When other people, you don't have to worry as much about the score if you think that in your head you can build this engine, regardless of what other people are doing. They'll get in your way by hate drafting against you. But, other than that, I think that it does incorporate that. And I was just trying out something unique, to see if it could actually work. And of course, Chris beat me by a point. But, it goes to show that there are different ways that I feel like you can play this game. And that's good. They play tested this probably pretty well.
Yeah, and on that topic, I'll give a shout out to my brother DJ. I was looking through the stats for this game, and one of the stats on BG Stats is highest score in a game that you've played. That was to my brother, and I remember the game. He had 87 points in the game, and it was a case where he did what you did. He had this powerful combo, and he got it just at the right time in that last round, but he wasn't starting from zero. He had been building up, and he had got just the right cards, and just pounded me in that last round. I was like, there's nothing I can do to even come close.
Another decision space I really like in this game. I think it gives you a lot of decision spaces, but I know Pete likes open drafting, but I think the way that you open draft in this game, as far as you either choose the creature to take into your hand or you immediately sell it, and you're selling it for what that color is worth or what that clan is willing to pay you. And so sometimes you don't even necessarily want a card. You just want whatever the value is, or you want like more coins because some clans only give you 1 coin. Some clans give you like 3 ones, but 3 ones sometimes are better than getting a 3. Just depends on how your engine is building. And I think that decision space always of, okay, am I taking this card into my hand or am I selling it? And if I'm selling it, what's the value? Which one do I actually want to sell for what that clan is willing to pay me? I think is always an interesting decision space. I think it just does a lot. There's a huge, I feel like, meta game that if you play this game a lot, there's probably all sorts of nooks and crannies that I don't even know about, but that you could play it at a very high level, just by, drafting and using that mechanic of what you're buying and selling and keeping away from other people.
Yeah, I think I also appreciated the iconography on the cards for me, as a new game. Playing straight through, it's easy to see because you know what the symbols mean. If it's a immediate action or if it's an end game or something. I thought the flow on the card was actually easy in front of me to read and see and understand. So I appreciate when they make it pretty simple.
It's not unnecessarily complicated, right? The iconography, maybe part of what makes it easy to understand and follow is there's not that much of it, right? There's 3 different types of cards. You need to understand what that symbol's telling you, and maybe there's a couple other ones indicating the stones or something or the points. That's about it. And yet there's still a decent amount in the game. You don't have to have complication with the rules. Give me a clean set of rules, and let me let the complexity be in how I actually execute them. And the last thing I'll say, we talked about, hey, there's some neat combos in there. I've also felt anytime I play this, I never feel like, wow, there's just nothing I can do. The cards aren't coming up that I can get. I think the combos are there. There's enough different opportunities to do things. You just have to find them. Maybe it comes down to which card you claim at what point, making sure you claim the one you need on your first time around. But I have never felt like, okay, I'm just not able to do anything in this round. There's always been paths I can follow or shifts I can make.
Yeah, I think that is true, Chris. I think there is a lot of agency when it comes to cards. It's not just what you're dealt. I think some games are like that, right? It's like you're dealt this, and no matter what you do, you can't get away from what you're dealt. I think this game provides you the opportunity to try to make something happen, even if you think initially your hand is just utter crap.
All right, so what are some of the, thorns in your butt in this game when you're playing that maybe just don't work for you? I mean, as far as I just said, I like the iconography, and I think it's straightforward. I do think that the print was an odd size because some of the cards had a lot of space, and I just feel like some of them you could have expanded the print font a little bit bigger per card, depending on how big or small or how much space you had on the card. And then when we were going around reading, for somebody who has a little bit too much AP when they're playing, if they have to read every single card that is dealt and that's coming out that takes us some time, and it's a little bit slower moving, which is fine, right, if you're learning the game. But I can see this game being kind of a slog if you haven't played it numerous times. So I guess I would just caution, maybe play this a couple times back to back and see what some of those different cards are, or take the time to say, let's all read our cards as we're going through this game.
I mean, I think I know a lot of board gamers where they play a game once and then they just move on because there's so many games to play. And I think if that's you, if you're the board gamer that only likes to play a game once and then kind of move on, I have some friends like this, that this is not probably the game for you, because I think this is a game that if you're going to play this repeatedly with a group of friends, that's when this game shines best. It's not going to be in that first or second play. It's going to be in that fourth, fifth, sixth play where everybody at that table knows how the game works. And I think that's where this game kind of really shines. But if you're the type of gamer that you always just want to try something once and kind of move on to the next thing, you probably won't see why other people really like this game.
Yeah, one of the things I'd say, and I'm kind of disagree with you guys a little bit. Maybe I haven't played the game enough, but I think it's hard to catch up if you are behind. If you don't have your engine going or have some synergies going, you're going to fall behind, and you're going to fall behind hard. Dave and I played earlier today, and I think the second card he got out was one that lets him take a point from one person, steal a point. He got that out second round. That's actually close to a 20-point swing in points. And it's like anytime I made a little ground, he was taking it away. And then on top of it, he got some other synergy cards, which allowed him to have some extra, slots. So instead of that 4 limit, he had 6 limit. Now, maybe that's on me because I didn't really read the card that good enough, and maybe I should have hate drafted a little bit. But that's one of the things that I think it's just hard to catch up, I think.
I feel that, Pete. I definitely, when people have their engines going and they're just like ripping you through, and maybe that comes down to player count. Maybe this isn't a 2-player game or something if there are cards that are too overpowered. I don't know.
Yeah.
That just sounds like what Dave does. You got to stop him from doing that. Like every game I play, Dave, he's always trying to I get one every turn.
Yeah, he'll nickel and dime you to death. Exactly. So, and again, that could be on me. And like I said, maybe with more plays and being a little bit more strategic on hate drafting, or not necessarily hate drafting, but not letting them get what they want, which I guess is hate drafting.
Well, I've definitely hate drafted when I know something's going to fit into someone, and sell the card if it doesn't do any good to you or something like that. I've done that a lot. And to be clear, I wasn't necessarily saying that, you can always catch up in this game. The game where David scored 60 points, his entire game was developed around that.
Yeah.
Right. I do agree. If you don't manage to get an engine going, it's an engine building game. If you don't get that engine going, you're done.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that.
Yeah. Daniela, you said you kind of liked the artwork. I kind of didn't like the pastel colors personally. I wish they would have been maybe a little bit more vibrant instead of like a pink. Do a red, and instead of that purple, maybe make it a darker purple. But it just, I felt like I was looking at Easter eggs.
Yeah, it is very bright and I would say girly in essence. But I would say overall the theme I don't enjoy in this game. Just a little goofy, and like cards are a little goofy and stuff like that. But that's just, that's my only personal take.
Do you not like Pokemon?
No.
You're just trying to catch all these creatures for your engine.
I do no.
Well,
I did find out that each of the different colors were done by a different artist. So if you are interested in that, cool. Looking at that, whoever did the purples, they did all of the purples, and they had 5 different artists for it. So
that's cool.
It is cool if you like that artwork. Like I said, a lot of times I just read what's on the card. So
gotta catch them all.
Doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, that's Pokemon. This is the same thing. You got to catch all the creatures.
Yeah.
For the record, I don't like the theme either.
Yeah, mud monster.
I disagree with you guys, but we'll battle later.
Well, it's just I don't know. Are you taming a creature? You're not really taming a creature. I don't know. It almost seemed a little bit pasted on. You're getting cards powered. And
I got you.
I'm also not. This is a little bit of a pet peeve or a nitpick or whatever. But I'm not clear on why this is a 2 to 4 player game. Why could it not be a 5-player game? Whether it's just give me a couple extra cards or whatever. But I'm not sure why. Other than if you're the first player, it's that Grand Austria Hotel thing that by the time it gets back to you. But drafting doesn't really take that long.
No.
So to me, this could have been a 5-player game. Maybe they tested it and there was something they didn't like about it. But I look at it, and as a member of a 5-player group, I'm thinking, well, this probably could have been a 5-player game.
Are there any expansions to this game? Do we know?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Is it a 5-player expansion?
I don't think so. I think it just adds more cards. Which I think this game actually needs more cards, so I don't think that was a bad thing.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, David, why don't you take us over to the collector's corner?
Yeah, so right now, if you're looking for Vale of Eternity, you can find this on Amazon for $30.31. Don't know where that 31 cents comes from, but that's how much it's going at the time of this broadcast. If you're looking at the used market, I was looking on there. Right now, it's going anywhere between $15 and $20 used. That's the price range I'm seeing, so about half the value of it new if you buy it on Amazon, but it's pretty widely available. You should be able to find this at a lot of places.
All right. Well, let's take it around final thoughts, and we'll go right back to you, David.
Like I kind of said earlier, I think it's just a game that you have to play multiple times. I think if you're only playing it once, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, because there's a lot of cards to read for everybody. If you're only going to play it one time, you're not going to see a lot of combos potentially. You're not going to see a lot of things that can happen. I think that happens over multiple plays. I actually think that my overall impression of the game isn't necessarily on just one play. It's more on a lot of plays over a period of time, because I feel like then I got a full grasp of this game. I think other games you can get a grasp on if you play it maybe once or twice. You get a really good grasp of this game. I felt like I had to play it in order to figure it out more. So that's kind of my final take on this one. passing it over to Daniela.
All right. Well, I unfortunately only played this game once, right? Shooting back to David's point, I messed up in the gameplays on this. I thought I had more plays and I did not. I was thinking of another game. But to David's point, I will say I did not love this game playing it once. I can understand there's going to be another game in the future we talk about that, again, played it once, loathed it. Needed another play of it, and it changed my mind. So I'm open to that. I think that concept is needed in gaming to give a game a chance. But right off the bat, not my favorite. I think there's a lot of other games that kind of do this type of tableau building and snake drafting and all the other things that do this that I think does it better. So that's just my off-the-cuff opinion of that right now. Pete.
Tableau building isn't my favorite mechanic, but I think what makes this game a little bit better for me is the drafting aspect. I played Magic for years. I really like that part, trying to figure out what can I take that's going to help me and going to hurt you, which is always fun. As far as
why are you pointing at me when you say that?
I was pointing at the whole table.
That's where you're sitting.
No, I think the game is okay. It's not my most favorite, but I did enjoy the plays that I had of it. I'm not sure I'm going to go out and seek this very much, but if you're looking for, I wouldn't even call it a filler game. I think it's a little bit more than that, and there's a certain kind of group that's going to be looking for this. And again, as David said, if you play it often, I think it's going to be fun. Maybe you get 2 games back to back and move on to something else. So those are pretty much my thoughts on it. Chris?
Yeah, I like this game. I don't love it. You're not going to see it on my shelf. I tend to only get games that I think I'm going to get to the table a lot and really enjoy. Although, man, I got an awful lot of them if that's maxing my qualifier. So I don't know. But this is not a game that I'm going to go out and buy. If someone wants to play it, I will play it. I do think it plays better at the higher player counts. And so I'm sitting here thinking to your comments about your most recent play with Dave, even when you're first, you have 4 cards to choose from.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas even if you're last in a 4-player game, you have 5 cards to choose from. And so it's more likely that a card's going to be there and you're going to get multiple cards to build that engine, as opposed to in a 2-player game, you're seeing half as many cards. The chances are you're not going to find the cards to build that. And I've played it at 2, I've played it at 4, we may have played it at 3 at some points. I prefer it at the higher player count. It's okay. Somebody wants to play it, great. I will not ask for it.
You're happy enough playing it on BGA.
Yeah, that was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, these tame beasts are getting a little wild, so let's summon up our thoughts on Res Arcana.
Res Arcana is an open drafting hand management race game for 2 to 4 players that has you using essences, artifacts, and dragons to control ancient monuments and conquer places of power. At the start of the game, you'll receive 2 mage cards, keeping 1 to grant you a special power. You'll also receive or draft 8 artifact cards, which are the only cards you'll have access to for the entire game, 3 of which you draw into your hand at the start. In the center of the table will be 5 places of power, which can later be conquered for points and abilities, 2 monuments, which will be refreshed once bought, 8 magic items, of which you'll draft 1, and a pool of 5 essences, with players receiving 1 of each to start. At the start of each round, players collect any essences granted to them from their played artifact cards, places of power, monuments, etc., and may choose to take essences they've collected on certain components as well. Players then take turns taking 1 action at a time until all players have passed. Available actions include placing an artifact, taking a card from your hand, paying its cost, and placing it into your tableau. This card's powers and abilities are now available to you. Or you can claim a monument or place of power, paying the indicated cost and placing the location into your tableau. A new monument is then revealed, but places of power are not replenished. Or you can discard an artifact, placing a card from your hand into your discard pile and gaining either 1 gold or any 2 other essences. Or you can use a power, gaining the ability of a component in your tableau. Alternatively, you can pass, exchanging your magic item for an available one from the table and drawing 1 and only 1 card from your deck into your hand. If your deck is empty, shuffle your discard pile, and if that's empty as well, then tough. The first player to pass will play first in the next round. After all players have passed, if 1 or more players has 10 or more victory points, the game ends. The player with the most points wins the game and uses the other players for potion parts. Res Arcana was designed by Tom Lehman and was first published in 2019 by Sandcastle Games.
All right, thanks, Chris. So I, started the last game off with table presence and how that kind of looks. I think this game is a little bit more chaotic on the table, but it's funny. I think everything had its spot. We all knew where the tiles were going to go. We all knew where to get our pieces from because you're kind of doing a lot of this on your own as you're grabbing things. Like you don't really have like a central playing area. It's just in front of you. And as chaotic as it kind of felt, it kind of was like, okay, it filled the table. You knew what you were doing in front of you. Like you were working up your engine, you were playing your cards as you're going. And I thought that was actually kind of cool how it kind of had that table presence.
Yeah, the components themselves I thought were pretty nice. It was a nice tray in the center, and again, the parts, it's not just a red cube or a yellow cube or anything like that. They're shaped like what they're supposed to be. Again, nothing super amazing about them, but I don't think the game needs something that's super amazing. It's easy to tell what it is, and they have a nice look. The tray, maybe a little bit too much in and out, and everybody's reaching into the tray at once. But in reality, again, I think for what it is, the components were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the tray does double as the thing to get everything out of, so that does save a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit on cleanup, and it does leave a spot to get everything. The thing that I really like about the game is how fast the turns are. Mm-hmm. You have one action. There's a few actions, as Chris said there, that you can do, but you take one action and you move on. So a lot of times it's coming back to you before you even know it, and you're planning out your next move. And there's not a lot of AP in this game because you're really restricted on how many cards you have. You start off with the one or two, you're lucky, and then you get them out and you build and you kind of get that engine going. So that's one of the things I do like about the game, that the turns are quick and snappy, and it's not overly complicated on what options you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the iconography on this too, to me, very straightforward. Understood it. You know when to tap a card, you know when to draw, you know when to trade them in. It was very, very clean.
For me, the part I like the most about this game is the 8-card hand. The fact that you never ever are going to get any, not only more, but any different. You can't trade for anything or anything like that. You have 8 cards. That's what you got, right? And I think they tell you in the first game, just deal 8 cards. Never do that. Maybe play it through maybe a couple hands or something. But once you play this once, you should always do the draft. I think that does a couple things for you. It allows you to build that engine, of course, but it also gives you a general idea of what other people might have in your hand because you're seeing them as you draft. And so you're not just building for yourself, you're building to protect. But again, just that idea that those are the 8 cards you're going to get. And to me, knowing that just takes this relatively simple game and just jacks it up. That's all I've got to work with, and I've got to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be a plus or a minus. I mean, you get the drafting. I don't know how you guys know what everybody else. You guys have mental math, I don't know, photo memories or something like that, eidetic memories, where you can see everybody else's cards. You know what everybody else is doing except for me at the table. I just want to point that out. So when you guys are passing these cards around, I don't even remember what I passed to someone. I know I didn't want it. But I mean, I think that makes the game interesting, where you have the set cards that you're going to get. You're never getting any more, but you may be screwed too for the entire game if you do not build a hand that maybe produces the color that you want, and then you're spending the whole game trying to get the black or trying to get the red or something like that. So it can really change up a game, to being great fun or kind of a struggle. I actually think that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the 8 cards in the next section. So.
That's what I was going to say too, Pete. But one thing I do like about this game is the decision space you have when you pass out of a round, and it lets you draft an ability for the next round. And so basically, if you're passing, there's these 7 or 8 different abilities. When you're going around in a round, whoever passes first gets to go ahead and take one of the 4 abilities. So these abilities are constantly changing hands. Some are, I feel like, better than others. But sometimes I feel like in this game, you might tell yourself, hey, I want to make another move because the moves are so simple. You're just doing one little thing. But I kind of want to pass because I want that extra ability for next time. And I want to make sure, Danielle over there doesn't get that ability because it could really help her game. So I find myself playing with that decision space of when to keep going and sometimes when to pull back. I think I played one game where I was just passing. I didn't even play any actions. I was just passing, taking abilities and trying to do something weird like I normally do. But I like that decision space of passing and you get something in the order in which you pass. And, it makes it, I think, a better decision space than a lot of games where passing, it just doesn't mean anything.
Well, on the flip side of that, though, there's a lot of times where I want one of those tiles that Dave or Chris has, and I need to make sure they pass before I do. So now I'm trying to milk every little move I can out. And this is a game where you really only have limited turns. You can't keep going. Eventually, your engine's going to run out. You can't tap something or, discard a card. So that's something else that is the flip side of that. I think you're absolutely right. Grabbing the thing that you want, but having it available is another key component of that.
Yeah, and I like that, Pete. I mean, I think that there is a meta game that's around that, and I like that puzzle of trying to either outlast somebody or just drafting first. But yeah, I like that part of this game.
Well, let's hear both of your thoughts on the 8-card limit, because it seems like you guys are jumping at the bit for that. Moving into some of the things that frustrate us then.
Well, I just feel like 8 cards is very restrictive. And, as you're going through, now I do enjoy the drafting part of it. But again, what cards come out, you may not get a good draft. And as you said, Daniela, you might just not have any synergies because, your left and right people are taking things that might work for you, and you're just kind of stuck with what you got. That's one of the things that I don't like about it. So if you do only have 8 cards and they are sucky 8 cards, it's going to be a sucky game for you.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be struggling trying to get anything going. This is one of the games when I teach this game, I do say grab cards that give you components because you will need that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's really important, because if you don't have the resources to buy anything, you're not going to buy anything, and you're going to pass, and you're not going to have any fun.
Yeah, you told me that the first time we played together, and I think that the drafting can be very daunting, and you panic a little bit right in that opening setting if you don't know what you're going for, what you're trying to accomplish, or what your hand might pull together to make that engine in front of you work. So yeah, it's pretty tight at the beginning there, but yeah, components are important.
Yeah, I think that's just the hardest part when you teach a player this game, is that those 8 cards that's it. Like so if you have a poor draft, there's no coming back from it a lot of times. That's your hand, and you're going to play it for the next 60 minutes, whether you like it or not. And I think that is challenging, especially for new players. I think, as you play this game more, you get better at drafting. You make sure that you have maybe some combos, but it is really restrictive. I almost wish that there was like a halfway point in this game where you do another mini draft instead of just only one at the beginning to kind of break it up, because there's nothing introduced. But that's what makes the game tight. So if you like that kind of thing, I could see why people like that. I particularly, I'm with Pete on this. I've had experiences where I felt like I didn't draft poorly, but the cards they are what they are. I'm not excited to play that round because I know what it's going to be. It's just going to be a grind.
So I'm going to make the counterpoint. Not that, it's good that it's tight, but I think if you did have more ability to either get more cards or to change cards in the middle, there are some really, really, really powerful combinations that if you get the right cards can pretty much just tilt the game the other way. And even with 8 cards, I've seen that happen a couple of times. There was one game that we played where I had that combination. I had a couple of cards that were just generating greens left and right. I had cards that I had in play that no one could stop me or take my greens or make me discard my greens. Then I had something else that allowed me to convert all of my color of any color to a certain number of gold. And it was literally by round 4, I had like 17 greens, converted them all to gold, had another card that was generating gold. And it was like when that happened, I feel like you guys all knew this game's over. And it was now you're just kind of slogging through and waiting for Chris to just run that engine until it's over. And that was just with those 8 cards. When I managed to find those, and if I think it was too easy to find those, then the game doesn't become challenging enough at that point, in my mind.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I just think, once you get those combos, this is a game where you have to kind of pick a strategy and you have to go with it. If you're going to go with a couple colors, try to go with those colors, and hopefully you can get those places of power before your opponents, because those are big points, and you got to try to get something there.
And pay attention to what your opponents are doing, because if you see them collecting certain money, and you're behind,
you might have to bail.
Because that really stinks when you've been playing for a couple of rounds to get something, and someone's like, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
And I think that's why David probably went out a few times, because he wanted to get that tiled piece too, because maybe his engine wasn't running well for him to get certain colors.
Yeah, I think that Chris is kind of right. I mean, and so I think the problem with this game that I have with it is that if you don't have a good draft, or if you just get crap cards for whatever reason, whether you're a good drafter or you're a bad drafter, it doesn't matter. It's hard to pivot, is I guess the word I'm looking for in this game. You're basically stuck with whatever that strategy is, and you're going to be playing out the next 60 minutes. It's hard to go away from that deviation. There's not a lot that you can say, hey, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm just going to go this other way because Chris, I could see his engine's just better. He's got a little bit better cards than me. I can't do that in this game. I'm stuck on that path, and I'm driving that road till it crashes, no matter what happens. And maybe I'm wrong because I haven't played this game as much as maybe some other people have, but I feel like the word pivot I can't really do in this game like I can in some other games.
I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah, one of my notes here is I have about halfway through the game, you know who's in the lead and who's going to win, and that's just kind of the way I feel. And if you're behind, This is a game. You're not miraculously going to pull a magic card that's going to give you, 4 gold to start cranking. If you don't have that in your engine, and sometimes I've played where it's the very last card that is the one that I need, and that's tough to handle too. And I get that you can try to cycle through the cards, but
Not quickly.
not quick enough, because by about that 8th or 9th round, the game's over.
I mean, if we're going to go with our frustrations, something else that I kind of just want to branch off on is there's attacking cards in this game where you can kind of mess with the other players. You can see the green life essence. And I feel like, I think Dave had it one time where he was attacking. He had the cards to attack. He felt bad doing it, and it just made the game longer. It didn't make his chance of winning any better. It just slowed everybody else down so that we were all just crawling, and he couldn't even turn anything. And I feel like the attacking cards in this game, I don't know, and I have limited plays, but I just don't know if they're actually worth it, meaning that when you do it, it just slows the game down rather than help you win. And it just makes it kind of a miserable experience for everybody. And then Dave finally was like, well, I don't care anymore. And then the game finally opened up and we were able to get it played. But for those 20 minutes, I mean, there was really nothing going on because
you're just protecting yourself.
We were just all protecting ourselves or getting everything stolen, so we couldn't even actually play anything. And that was just I remember that game distinctly because of that.
Trying to last long enough to where Dave had to pass, so then you can get your green stuff.
Yes.
And then
Yeah, I will say I played this game a lot at 2 players a long time ago for one reason or another. I'm not just going to say that, but I ended up selling it to David because, it was one of the things that I think I just played it out. And again, some of the things that we talked about, that weren't my favorite part of the game is one of the things where I was just kind of done. The only other things I would say is there are a few cards that are a little confusing, and they point out some of those cards in the rules, but not all the cards. And it's the cards that aren't in there are the ones that I'm looking for. So that's a little confusing for me. Again, if you play it enough, you kind of get it. The other thing I'd say is you probably want to get the expansions for it, because the base game, there are a lot of cards, but I think you'll see them quickly, especially the guys that you start with and, some of those places of power. Even with the expansion, you're not getting tons more, but it does add a little bit more to the game. At least it opens it up a little bit more with different ways to play it with the Pearl expansion and some of the other things like that.
All right. Well, David, why don't you take us over to the Collector's Corner?
Okay, so right now you can buy Res Arcana for $38.39 on Amazon. Again, I love this crazy pricing at the time of this broadcast. But on the used market, again, it's going for about $15 to $20 used. So both of the games that we're looking at today, they're about the same price point. Res Arcana is actually a little bit higher, new. But as far as on the used market, both these games are about the $15, $20 price range is what you're seeing across the board.
Okay. All right. Let's take it around. Final thoughts, starting with Chris.
Yeah, Res Arcana, I like the theme when you're dealing with magic and fantasy and things like that. I enjoy that theme. The first game I played it, I didn't really like it that much. The next couple of games, again, once I started to understand what was going on, I liked it more. Even then, though, I think for a lot of the negatives that we talked about here, it's not a game I'm necessarily going to seek out. I certainly won't buy it. I'm not going to ask for it. But if somebody wanted to play it, I would do it, but I'd probably play it once.
Yeah, this is a game I would probably sell. Oh, wait, I did.
Find some chump that doesn't.
There's one born every minute.
Yeah.
Sucker. No, just kidding.
It's going up in value, guys.
He got a good deal on it. You got a good deal on it. No, I do enjoy the game. It's just I played it so much that I kind of played it out, and I think there's other things that I would like to play. Engine building isn't my jam. I will play it, but again, like the other game that we talked about, I enjoy the drafting part more. I just wish there was more drafting than 8 cards.
David.
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts on this game are a lot like the game we just mentioned earlier, Vale of Eternity. I feel like if you have the right game group for this game and you guys are playing it consistently, I can see how this could be a lot of fun because you'll know the cards inside and out. You know what people are drafting. I feel like if it's just, a one-time thing, hate to say I'm on repeat, but you're not going to find as much enjoyment. One of the reasons why I bought this game from Pete is because I had heard a lot of good things about Res Arcana. It's one of the classic games before the COVID era, I want to say. And I always just heard really good things about it. And I can tell why people really gravitate towards something like this, but I think it's a specific kind of group. And if you have that steady group, I think your group will get a lot of fun out of both of these two games. But if you don't, I think that these games are hard to get to the table if you're just always cycling through new people or you don't have a steady group that you're playing with. Pass it over to Daniela.
Yeah, so I think this game, we did have the right group for playing it. I think, Pete was super helpful getting me to learn the game, and we played this game back to back, and I actually enjoyed it. For what it is, I think it's, a mid game. It's okay. It's, nothing great. I was a little bit... I didn't even know. I don't even know what Res Arcana means. I think we were talking about that for part of the game too. I'm like, what does this even mean? Trying to understand the artwork. I think the artwork actually is really well done, and I like magic and fantasy and that kind of stuff too. But I actually didn't really like the artwork on this. So it's done well, but it's not for me. I think I don't really understand when I'm playing it, what all that meant, or the dragons, and I don't know. There was some stuff that I was kind of leave it. So, but overall, again, I agree with the points that David was making about playing it with a good group and maybe playing it back to back. And if you're a person who gets this to the table a lot, great, that's awesome for you. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to go out and seek this game. But if it's with the group that we enjoy playing with, great, let's play it.
Yeah, I'm just really quickly, I'm just going to jump in. I'm looking at all the plays we had, and a lot of us, we played this 4 times, and there's 4 different winners, and that always doesn't happen. So I will say, maybe it's because you're dictated the path of destiny that you have to stay on the whole time. But not every game we could say that we played it 4 times and we have 4 different winners. So that is something unique about this game.
Mm-hmm. All right, as magical as this conversation is, I think it's time to head on over to today's Battle of the Funnest.
All right, everyone, the moment of truth has arrived. It's time to separate the men from the boys and the games from the toys. We're pitting these games head-to-head against each other in the ultimate face-off. In one corner, weighing in at 2.14 out of 5 with an overall BGG rating of 7.6, found in a valley during a pep rally finale, controlling fire, wind, and water like an earth dragon's daughter, the mythical marksman, the fabled freak of forever, he's got a huge set of magic stones, Vale of Eternity. In the other corner, weighing in at 2.65 out of 5 with an overall BGG rating of 7.6, discovered in a tower in a place of power, as fluid with a scope as a druid on dope, capturing the essence of adolescence like a necromancer dancer, the mighty mage, the articulate artificer, the jam-packed extract of artifacts, Res Arcana. And now, let's summon up the courage to start our Battle of the Funnest Showdown. All right, guys, as a reminder how this works, we're going to evaluate these games head-to-head, 5 different categories: theme and production, mechanisms, value for your time, replayability, and the fun factor. The game that gets the most votes wins each category, and the game that wins the most categories takes the prize in our Battle of the Funnest. So let's get this monumental battle started with theme and production. Daniela.
All right, theme and production. I'm going to go with Vale of Eternity. I think it is cleaner on the table. I think that the components are good for what they are. The theme is bright, even though I don't enjoy the theme. I actually think the table presence is great, and I think the production is good for what it is. It doesn't need to be deluxeified, sorry, Pete, or anything like that, but that's how I'm going to vote for theme and production. David.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about this battle. I think this matchup is very, very close as far as in the ratings on BGG and everything else. I think these games actually are very comparable. But I'm going to give, when it comes to the artwork and production, I'm going to actually go with Vale of Eternity 2. I do like the theme of taming mythical creatures and harnessing their powers, kind of like Pokemon. I know some people didn't get that. But with Res Arcana, the artwork just doesn't resonate with me. I think it's a little bit more old school. And so I like the components a little bit better in there. But the overall theme and what I'm doing, I feel like I could explain it a lot easier when I play Vale of Eternity. So I'm going to go that way. I just like it the way it looks. Moving on to Pete.
Disagree with you guys as normal.
I saw that coming.
Yeah, you saw that coming. I like the components better in Res Arcana. I do like the artwork better in Res Arcana. As I said, I'm not a big fan of the pastel colors of the artwork. But again, it's a fine game, and we'll get to those other categories of the games, which I'm sure there's going to be different votes. But I'm going to go Res Arcana just for looks alone.
Chris.
Yeah, for me, the theme for Vale of Eternity, I mentioned it earlier, it's a bit wonky to me. At the same time, the theme for Res Arcana, while I like it, is pretty much the same as that of like 1,000 other games. But I do feel like Vale of Eternity's theme is a bit pasted on, doesn't quite work for me. The components are good in Res Arcana. It's Res Arcana for me, which means we have a 2-2 tie. So right off the bat, we go to our fifth Meeple Dave to break the tiebreaker on theme and production.
He says, I select Res Arcana for the theme since using the elements to cast spells on the card feels like you are a mage. I also like the production with the tray to hold all the elements.
All right, so Res Arcana by tiebreaker wins the first category, theme and production. We'll go on to mechanisms. Pete.
This is a toss-up for me. I like the drafting mechanisms in both. I don't love the engine-building mechanisms in both. I guess I'm going to go with, I like the flow of the game better with Res Arcana, and just it being one action, one turn, where with you're doing the Vale of Eternity, when it's your turn, you might have cards that trigger, but then sometimes you don't, and somebody else does, and they're doing their thing. It just, to me, it just feels like there's a little bit more fluid gameplay in Res Arcana, so that's what I'm going to go with. And I'm going to go over to David.
I think it's a tough decision on just the mechanisms a little bit. Res Arcana just plays really old school. I mean, I could tell where Vale of Eternity, I feel like, has updated. I know one came out in 2023, one came out in 2019. I'm just going to say that I like the updates that I feel like Vale of Eternity has done to this kind of system. I think it plays a little bit smoother. I feel like the cards flow a little bit better, and I like seeing more cards throughout the game and not being necessarily locked in. I like that I could pivot a little bit more. And so for those reasons, I'm going to go with Vale of Eternity on this one, and I'm going to send it over to Daniela.
I think this is neck and neck for me, as kind of everybody's struggling with. But for the simple fact, and by a hair, I'm going to go with Vale for the simple fact that you have a little bit more options with the cards and your destiny when you're playing the game. Chris.
Yeah, neither one is real groundbreaking here. Res Arcana's mechanism is relatively straightforward. I mentioned the highlight for me is that 8-card piece. They're yours alone, and that's all you ever get. So I love that feature. For Vale of Eternity, again, nothing really unique there. I like the combination with that stone limit and not getting changed back. But again, it's like that one thing that I can pick from each one, and beyond that, I struggle a little bit. I don't think either one shines, but because of that tight hand management piece, I'm going to go with Res Arcana, which means, once again, we are 2-2. It's the Dave Show for our fifth Meeple. Back to Pete to see what Dave sent us.
Matter.
All right. I'm glad I got all his emails. So he goes, I select Res Arcana for the mechanism since I like the pass turn order and selecting the benefit depending upon if it's available and how bad you wish to go first. That is one thing that David said earlier. He said, he also says, I like the different player powers giving each player a different strategy to shoot for.
Okay.
All right, so thanks, Dave. Res Arcana, again, by tiebreaker, wins mechanisms. We go to value for your time. I'm going to start. I was looking at my plays of both of these. Vale of Eternity, on average, for me, 50 minutes. Res Arcana, 62. So there's not really a time play here. Again, I keep saying this, but neither one for me is particularly noteworthy with respect to, wow, I get a lot out of it here. But just thinking about the feelings I have after playing each one and asking myself, basically, was that worth it? I think I'm going to go with Vale of Eternity, but again, I think it's the fastest turtle here. It's not necessarily at one. Maybe Res Arcana lost that one. David.
So value for time, like Chris said, most of these games, they play right around that 60-minute mark. When I'm thinking back, though, on this, I kind of go back to a comment Pete had said about Res Arcana, where I think halfway through the game, I can clearly see a winner sometimes, and it's just, how long is that person going to realize it or take to get there? And I have limited ability to affect them. And so value for my time is because I feel like with Vale of Eternity, sometimes things happen in that last round that you can't predict. And I think that not knowing sometimes when those last rounds happen, even though they're both kind of races, so there is no set round structure, I do value my time more for Vale of Eternity just because there's always something that's cooking at the end that you might not see come in. And I can't say the same with Res Arcana. So I'm going that way today. I'm going to kick it over to Pete.
I agree with you. Vale of Eternity, I think, is an easier game to get to the table, especially this weight of game. You're generally introducing this to newer players. You're not going to be playing with somebody often who enjoys a heavier game because we'd probably just play that. So this is a great game that I think you could take out to the church group, and it's an easy teach. It's not very difficult. And as far as the game goes, you also mentioned being able to still have a chance. And I like seeing more cards. I like the drafting aspect more. There's more of that than in Res Arcana. So Vale of Eternity, value for my time, definitely well worth it.
All right. Well, as the noob, I'm going to disagree with all of you. So value for your time. I think it took a lot longer to have Vale click as we're playing it. I think the teach was a little bit longer. It got shorter as we, played, but I think that the teach and learning the game just balancing the two on a scale equal Res Arcana was much easier to learn, just the components and the mechanisms of the game. So value for your time for me, an easy game to learn, to get on the table, play it a couple times and get it through. Res Arcana for me.
Daniela?
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Vale of Eternity. Vale of Eternity with a count of 3-1 wins value for your time. We will move on to replayability, and I'll start with David.
Replayability. So I'm just going to kind of throw out there, for those of you who listen to this podcast a lot, you might know that I like to play just crazy strategies. I try to break a lot of games, see if I can just dive into something. I either win by a lot or lose by a lot. Normally lose by a lot. But on this one, with replayability, I've just found more combos. I feel like the cards, because maybe you're seeing a lot more, but for Vale of Eternity, I see a lot more, and those combos play off of each other, and I feel like a lot more cards work together in that system. We're just judging base game here, so I don't know. Pete had said, if we add some cards to Res Arcana, it could be a different story, but for what I see just in the base game itself, I feel like there's more combinations that you can do, and so therefore I'm giving the replayability to Vale of Eternity. I'm going to send it over to Daniela.
Again, nothing extraordinary here. But for replayability for me, if they're both sitting on the table, I'm going to walk towards Res Arcana for this because, again, just the ease of playing the game, knowing what all the tiles do. I know you got a smaller deck to play with. I think there might still be some cards that can link up, but I still need to understand, again, Vale a little bit more. So take my vote with a grain of salt, Pete.
Replayability, I'm going to go with Vale of Eternity. Just there is a large stack of cards. You're drafting those cards. They're going to come out in different orders. You just see more stuff than, as we talked about, you got a card hand, and that's all you got. So pretty simple and straightforward to me. And again, David, I think you're looking at my notes. I said base games. I think you have more opportunities to see more cards in Vale of Eternity. I sold Res Arcana because I felt like I played it out. Chris?
Yeah, for me, I thought Res Arcana started feeling a bit samey relatively fast for me. Vale of Eternity got there eventually too, but it took longer. So I'm going to go with Vale of Eternity, which means Vale of Eternity wins replayability 3-1. We go to the tiebreaker now. In categories, it's 2-2. Fun factor, I will start with Daniela.
Well, I think you know where I'm going with this one. All right. So fun factor for me, I think, playing these games minimal times, I didn't really have fun playing Vale. It's okay. I don't know. It's a lot of reading. It's at the end of the day, it's literally like the last thing I want to do is read a bunch of cards. So I'm going to go with Res Arcana. Pete.
I'm going to agree with you. It's very close. And I think if both are setting up on the table and I'm looking at it, I'm probably going to want to play Res Arcana, even with some of the negative things that I said about it. I think there's a little bit more of a game. I think it's a little bit more challenging, at least for me. So that's my vote. It's very close. You ask me tomorrow, it might be a different answer. But we're going to go over to David.
I do have some decent good memories. I mean, I just like, seeing Dave, one of the last games. I mean, the only standout game I can remember really of Res Arcana is, Chris's cheating card that he wins with by a zillion points, or it wasn't cheating, but a broken card maybe. And then, and Dave's, attacking everybody by dragons. We're all crawling on our hands and knees trying to be like, can you please let us up so we can get this game over with?
Mercy.
That's pretty fun. But if I'm judging the game that I actually like to play on the table for a fun factor, I just think that the times at the end, I think there's a surprise factor I love. When I can go from 0 points to 60 points and try to surprise somebody at the very end, even though the whole game I'm just doing a whole lot of nothing, it's just really fun for me personally. So if I go with the thematic memories I have, I'd probably go with Res, but I'm going to go with my one-time fun factor of just going from 0 to 65 or 64. So I'm going to go with Vale on this one and send it over to Chris.
Yeah, for me, neither one of these had big aha moments. You know, I think of games like Camel Up where it's just a raucous good time. Neither of these are that, obviously. None of these had us laughing or even celebrating together. Really not a whole lot of major emotions, except maybe, again, when you slap down 64 points in that one turn. But
That was only good for one person.
I know. I was like, oh, man. I do think we can razz each other a little more with Res Arcana. I feel the in-game experience is a bit more of what I would call fun. So just by a whisker, but still by that whisker, Res Arcana takes the fun factor for me, which means it takes fun factor overall 3-1. And with a score of 3-2, Res Arcana conjures up a victory to win today's Battle of the Funnest.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our discussion, and if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, may you summon the courage to face all that life throws at you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Adios, amigos. Yeah,
Sorry,
so this
let me
one's
do
gonna.
that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so this
Wait,
one.
hold on. I read the words wrong. Our website at the fifth check it out. Wow.
Say it again.
Someone else just read it. I can't read this phrase right here.
I don't even know what that means. A new monument.
It's vacation time.